What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I wanted to break down what's happening with Tesla spying the overall markets. I'm going to break down some big news that came out that's helping Tesla go absolutely parabolic. Not to mention big data coming out for the markets for tomorrow. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total, not to mention an 8.1% APY on invested cash. The offer ends very soon, in about 2 weeks from now. Anyways, let's talk about Tesla. Tesla is an absolute monster. This thing is going parabolic, and we're breaking all-time highs all over again. If you look at the way the share price is moving, we surpassed 440 as resistance. We broke past 450, then 460. Now we're above 470. So this thing is just continuing to run like there's no tomorrow. And the question is, why is Tesla running like this, and where's this thing going next? Let me just be very frank. If we get back above like 480, we end up breaking that, I wouldn't rule out the possibility of us getting closer to 500 because there's so much bullish news coming out and we're seeing so many buyers stepping in, and there's no sign of weakness quite yet on Tesla. It looks very, very strong so far. So what is the news saying? Let's talk about that first, and I'll break down the charts. Well, the first thing that's very, very interesting is the fact that there's been some talk about how with the Model S sales kind of slowing a little bit, Tesla is offering free supercharging for life. They're doing this once again, for another new sales incentive, but they're also increasing the Model S price by about $5,000. So the all-wheel drive is starting about $80,000 in total, whereas the Plaid starts at about $95,000. I went over these in my video from yesterday. I did go over what it looked like in the website. So if you guys want to see that, you guys could look at that. But despite that, I still think that's a good piece of news because they do still have more sales incentives, and a slight price increase is not that bad. Tesla's going to be fine nonetheless. There was also a very bullish piece of news that came out. We had Wedbush analyst Daniel Ives, who's made the decision to raise his price target of Tesla to $515. That's way higher than the 400 target from before. And then on top of that, I think that other Wedbush analysts do have about a 600 plus target for the end of the year in the super bullish case. They're not there yet. I think if it surpasses this, then he'll increase his target again. But for now, we're looking at $515 as a potential target. And there's a lot of bullish potential in this because of that. So we're seeing Wedbush talking about how their AI and autonomous opportunities could help the market cap double to over $2 trillion by the end of 2025. And then on top of this, they're very excited about Optimus, which could be another major upside catalyst. So they're talking about Optimus and the big improvements, and they believe that there are going to be some geopolitical risks, but Tesla is going to offset that with the new AI developments. And they're still they're basically a massive bull for Tesla, expecting $500 plus per share. Now, there was some more good news that came out about the fact that Tesla in Texas, they have a new lithium refinery plant that is beginning operation amidst the oversupply that was going on in the past. So that's going to be very useful for their battery production, helping them to really increase that. You guys can see this is what the team looked like. They posted this on Twitter. So awesome news to see them working together and getting their raw materials together to help this. This is going to be big for their batteries and to help them keep up with a lot of demand. So very, very good news, at least thus far. And I think that's awesome to see Tesla becoming more independent and growing to such a large extent. Now, Goldman Sachs, they remain neutral on Tesla for now. So is Cantor Fitzgerald, but Wedbush is very bullish. They remain very, very strong in their conviction that Tesla is going to be running like crazy. And if anything, the share price just proves them correct because this thing is very bullish. There's nothing stopping it, and it's going to continue this trend as time goes on. That's why the price-price ratio is exploding. It's absolutely exploding because there's so many buyers stepping in. This is greatly outperforming the entire market. So that's why Tesla is very strong right now. Historically, Tuesdays tend to be green about 51% of the time, and we see more volatility at 11 o'clock a.m. and then at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Besides that, just know that historically, December is not as strong as month, but January tends to be stronger. In this case, December is a very strong month for Tesla. January could also be strong depending on their deliveries numbers coming out in about like 2 weeks. So we'll see about that. But besides that, very, very bullish news nonetheless. Tesla is very, very strong. Now, what else is good is volume is at 110 million. Volume is going up like crazy, and that's helping this thing really run. So overall, Tesla is very strong. It's very bullish. It's showing no signs of weakness, in my opinion. And on the daily charts, it's very strong. It's continuing to push. We'll have to see how well we hold above 470, but nonetheless, we're still on our way to new highs. The weekly is very bullish. Everything is bullish, guys. There's no sign of this thing stopping. And this thing is like a train. It's like a train has so much momentum. There's no sign it's done quite yet. Now, when you look at the overall market, check this out, guys. Okay, we had a couple of stocks in the green. Most stocks were kind of red when it comes to finance and health, and others were like kind of flat. But a lot of big tech are what really held this market up. Despite Nvidia being somewhat in the red, Apple started to push, Google pushed nicely, Amazon pushed nicely, and Tesla was leading the way up over 6.14% for the day. Absolutely incredible. Tesla was what led the market up, looking very, very bullish. Now, when it comes to other factors, just know that although Tesla's leading us up, there are some factors that will affect the markets. Tomorrow is going to be Tuesday, December 17th, 2024. 15 minutes before the market opens, we have industrial manufacturing production numbers coming out, so it might cause some volatility. Then we have some bill and bond auctions at 11:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So there might be more volatility then, but the main time is going to be at 9:15 a.m. Besides that, when it comes to more data, just know that for now, the market is going to be reacting to some minor earnings, nothing too crazy. We have General Mills on Wednesday. On Thursday, we have Nike and FedEx, and that's pretty much it. So we'll see what happens. Most of the earnings are quite minor. And then lastly, when it comes to momentum, the market is more greedy. We did see more green on the QQQ and the NASDAQ. The S&P 500 was a little bit shorter than that. It didn't run as much, but it's okay. It's still in the green. And then momentum is very greedy right now. There's still a lot of greed present in the markets. The put to call option ratio is still a little bit low because of the fact that there's not a lot of put buying. The last 5 days, we're not seeing so many institutions loading up in puts yet. They're not doing that quite yet, and the market remains elevated as a result. The VIX is trying to bounce here. So could this be a sign the VIX is about to break out? It's a possibility, but not a guarantee. That's going to depend a lot on FOMC. So as a reminder, tomorrow we do have some data coming out at 9:15, but most of the data is not insanely significant. I do think the most significant time for volatility is 9:15. But for Wednesday, December 18th, we have FOMC. We have Jerome Powell giving a speech and the Fed's interest rate hike decision or their cut decision. If anything, they're going to most likely cut. So that's the main time for volatility for the markets. It's going to be on Wednesday. Tomorrow there might be some volatility, but Wednesday is going to be crazier, so just keep that in mind. Anyways, that is it for all the news and data. Let's just focus on the charts. Because Wedbush are now saying they see $500 for Tesla. We even saw Fubon Securities calling out 472 as their target. Tesla's already made that target. It's bullish. It's very bullish. It's very strong. There's no sign of this thing stopping so far. So going into tomorrow, okay, in order to turn bearish, you want to see Tesla essentially lose 470. If 470 fails us, we're looking for essentially this support right here around 463. If we lose that, we could be dipping all the way down towards the 455 area. And if that fails us, look for 450, then eventually 440 is our main support. So we're holding very, very nicely above these support zones. But just know, as long as we don't lose like 465 to 460, we're going to be completely fine at the very least. Right now, we're holding above 470, so there's a good chance it's going to try to continue. As long as that holds, look for 475 as resistance. If we break that, 480 is coming. And if we're above that, I think we easily just start squeezing closer to 490. So in my view, I think we're very strong. We're very bullish. And I think that Tesla is favoring and wants to go up to 480 or above. So it's continuing to run. I don't see any sign of weakness, and there's no way for me to turn bearish until we officially get a rejection. And there's no sign of that whatsoever. It's just pushing like crazy. So Tesla could be breaking all-time highs again tomorrow, hitting 480. It should gap up most likely, and then we'll see what kind of reaction we get. There's a lot of momentum today that's going to be remaining into tomorrow, so it looks very, very strong. That's what's leading the QQQ up right now. Tesla is an absolute monster. Now, on the other hand, SPY is in a different world. I want to talk about that now and then the rest of these charts. As far as SPY goes, just know this, we are range bound. So it's very simple. Every time we get very close to this resistance around this 608 zone, we tend to reject. And when we get very close to about 602 to 603, we tend to get bought back up. Notice that we hit 608, came down to 602, 608, 603, 608, and then back down. So it's just back and forth and back and forth. So it's very simple. This is all we're essentially doing. Might be a little rejection here tomorrow, maybe after our data comes, so we dip back down to the 604 area, bounce off this, and we just continue to trade sideways like this. But then once FOMC starts tomorrow, this could cause a breakout to the upside to new all-time highs or a big rug pull if we lose structure like this. So that's going to likely be the big catalyst. Otherwise, I think SPY is just going to be range bound for the time being. So we could dip closer to 604 tomorrow, then bounce back up to 606. I think we're just going to be range bound for now, so make sure you watch this just to be safe. On the other hand, we have ES. I think there's a little glitch right over here, so I'm not really too worried about that. For now, just know that ES has a very similar setup. We're just going back and forth and back and forth. The reason why this is important is because we have this resistance around the 6100 area, and the main support is going to be down here around this 6050 area. We're going back and forth and back and forth. So this could be dipping lower all the way back down to about 6060, if not 6040. We'll have to see what kind of reaction we get at least as time goes on. So I expect some volatility in the middle. Unless we break 6100, then yes, we could be pushing for new all-time highs for about 6120 plus. If we lose 6040, we turn back down. Otherwise, we're just range bound. So look for a dip and a bounce is the most likely case for tomorrow. We're just range bound for the time being. For others out there, let me just go back to Nvda. Unfortunately for Nvda, we're not looking that great. And the reason for that is because we had some negative news that came out. So if I go back on the chart like this, you guys could see that there's a little bit more distributive structures that are developing. And when you zoom out all the way, let's just hide all the supports and just look at it like this. In plain sight, you guys could see there's a left shoulder here, there's a head, and then a right shoulder on Nvda, and that could favor more downside. So I do think it's going to be testing 130 to 128. If that fails us, we could be dumping to 125 or below. To turn back up, you want to reclaim 135 and 137. Otherwise, the head and shoulders could be favoring kind of like a little bit more downside, all the way down to 128 or so. So I do see this looks a little bit more bearish. We're making lower highs here, and we even rejected today, failing to break past the high. So the daily looks weaker. This chart is looking more bearish, and this is favoring. It might be on its way down to 130, if not 128. So please keep that in mind. There's some weakness on Nvidia. On the other hand, when it comes to other tickers like Bitcoin, Bitcoin hit this resistance very close to about 108,000 only to reject. So we're going to be looking at the support right here around 105,000 flats, if not 103,400. Those supports could be tested. We'll see if we bounce off them or not, but look for some downside as a stronger possibility. Then we'll see what happens after that. For others out there, we have NQ looking very strong right now. So far, we're looking very, very bullish. We're going to be looking to see if this could hold above 22,200. If we break that, this will continue to pump. If we reject here, we're looking for 22,000 as our support. We'll have to see what kind of reaction we get. But nonetheless, we remain a lot more bullish. So I think that for now, NQ looks bullish. As long as we're about, I think there's going to be a lot of differences that are going on right here. So it could be looking for 22,200 as our potential target. And I do see a lot more upside that could be coming right here. So look for more upside. We'll see if we push through this resistance. I think we're doing a great job. For the QQQ, we look more bullish as well. We have 538 and 540 as our resistance areas. If we lose 535, we're looking for a dip back down towards 530. But nonetheless, we look a lot more bullish. So I think that this could be favoring 540 plus on the QQQ. I think we're doing a great job so far. It looks more bullish to me. For other factors out there, we also happen to have Apple. Apple's holding its 20 EMA. If we end up losing 248, we could be dipping back down to 245. As long as we hold the support, we're looking for 2.5 as our potential target. So I think that Apple's doing a fantastic job at holding its support, and this could be looking for 252 plus. Looks more bullish to me. For other factors out there, we have Netflix, which is stuck in the middle. We have 921 as the main area to watch for. As long as we're above that, we're looking for essentially 930. If we lose support here, we could be dipping back down towards about this 916 area. So we're stuck in the middle, going back and forth for now. But this is favoring a push for essentially 930. So I think Netflix is doing a good job, and we could be looking for 930 as our targets. For others out there, we have MSTR. This is looking a bit more decent. One thing I want to say is that there might be a small dip coming. We'll have to see if support holds. So this might make its way down to about 403.5. If that fails, let's look for 394. So it might be a small dip coming to the lower 400s. And we'll see if it bounces or not. But this is still favoring downside a little bit more. For other factors out there, we have Celsius. Celsius is on a bit of a downtrend right over here. We could be on our way down towards the 30.08 area. If this fails at 30.87, we're looking for a dip down here, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. If we hold support, we could attempt to bounce for 32, but overall, I do see a risk of us coming down to 30.08, so please keep that in mind. There might be some downside coming. For Supermicro, we're on a bit of a downtrend here. We're making the lower highs for now, so just keep that in mind. There's going to be a risk of this dipping a little bit lower. I think that if we don't reclaim 37, this is favoring a move back down closer to 30 flat, then eventually 28. So I think 30 could be coming or below as we're seeing a little bit more downside. So keep that in mind, and we could be looking for a little bit more of a dip that's coming. For Palantir, we're stuck in the middle. We have a nice inverse head and shoulders like structure that's holding. If we end up losing 73.86, we're looking for a dip to 71.34. As long as we hold supports, I think that 78 is going to be our next potential target. This is pushing a little bit higher. So if we break past this, this could try to push higher. Look for a test of 73.86. If we bounce off this, we could try to hold up and retest these highs. So I see some potential for an accumulation, but we have to hold support. So we could be looking for a move like this where we come back down to the support. So we'll have to see if we bounce like that. And we'll see how it goes from here if we hold the support right over here during this test. So watch for that going into tomorrow. For others out there, we have Rivian, which is looking more bullish. Look for 15.5 as a resistance. If that breaks, we're looking for 16. If this rejects here, we're looking for essentially a test of 14.8 as our support. If 15.5 breaks, we're looking for 16 as our target. I think there's more upside potential here. If we lose 15 flat, we're looking for a dip back down towards these lower levels. But I think this is favoring upside, and it's going to try to get closer to 16 as long as 15.5 breaks. So I see more potential in Rivian as it's following to Tesla. Could be looking for more upside. SoFi looks more bullish. We got a nice breakout right over here. I said for a confirmed breakout, watch and see a little dip and a bounce. Instead of dipping all the way down to this trend line, we actually dipped to about 16.2 before the bounce came. So this is looking more bullish. We could be looking for essentially 17.2 plus if we break past 17, and eventually 17.5 is going to be coming. So it looks more bullish to me. For the IWM Russell 2000, we're in a channel so far, but we're trying to get bought back up. This could be favoring 235 and then 237 as our targets. So look for a dip and a bounce. As long as we hold this support, we could just consolidate in this range. So I see some potential for a bounce. For AMD is showing some weakness right now. This could be approaching 125. And we'll see what kind of reaction we get, but I see that this might actually dip a little bit lower. So give this some time to develop. There might be a small dip for 125 or below, and then we'll see how things go from there. For ARM, we're also dipping right over here. We're looking for this support around 142.63. If that fails us, we're looking for essentially 140 and eventually 136. So ARM might be dipping a little bit lower for 142 to 140, and we'll see if we bounce or not. But for now, just like Nvidia, it's going to be following the trend for a small dip. So please keep that in mind and heed that warning. For a coin, we are consolidating up here at tough resistance, but there is that gap to fill below. So this could be favoring the gap fill all the way down towards 311 to 310. So we might be dipping lower towards that area, and we'll see what happens from there. Amazon has some tough resistance around this 233 area. We'll have to see if we could break it or not. If not, we could be dipping back down for essentially 230, then 228. So please keep that in mind. For others out there, we have Meta. As far as Meta goes, just know that this is looking decent. We might test 622. As long as we hold 622, we could bounce for 630. If we lose this, we could be dipping for 618. So look for 622, then potentially a bounce, and we'll have to see what happens after that. We could be looking for a move to retest 630. I think we might be dipping on Microsoft to retest 450. If that does not hold, look for 447. And we'll see if we bounce off that again. It is still showing some life and some nice potential. So I think that off this high, we could dip like this and then try to rebound like that. That's going to be the most likely case if we hold support. So watch for that very closely. Look for a test of 450, then 447, and we'll see if we bounce. Overall, that's going to be key for the way it ends up moving. For Google, we have a tough resistance at 200 with a slight bearish divergence. That could be favoring a move back down to 195, and we'll see if we bounce off that. So there might be a little dip coming, but as long as we make a higher low, it could just be a small dip than a bounce, and we could eventually try to exceed 200 if we break resistance. So look for a dip for 195, and we'll see what happens with that. I also want to call out GameStop. I'm seeing some potential in this. If we get back above 30, we're looking for 31 as our target. We could be looking for a test in that range. If we lose 28.3, we could be dipping, but this is favoring 30 plus, and I see a lot of potential in this. For AMC, we dipped quite a bit. We're trying to rebound, so we could be looking for 4.3 as our target, but I think there's a good chance that it may attempt to get that rebound. For DJT, we look more bullish. We're looking for a target near 40, so I think this could try to push higher. For the VIX, we look more bullish. We have a nice inverse head and shoulders, but there is one concern. This might be starting to break out. So could that mean the market's about to see some downside? It's not a guarantee. This is going to be dependent on what happens with our data that's coming out during FOMC. So please keep that in mind. If this truly breaks out, this could be a sign that the market's about to get a rug pull. Not a guarantee. It depends on Jerome Powell and what happens during FOMC. The 10-year is also waiting for FOMC, so that's going to be the next big factor. And then the dollar index is testing 106.8. We'll have to see how this reacts. If we lose this, 106.6 is coming. But let me just say that the dollar also has a double bottom, and there is potential for us to try to bounce off its support. So it could be forming an accumulation here and then start to slowly start pushing higher to these imbalances above. So I see potential in that as well. So with that being said, guys, I want to thank you all so much for listening. the market is looking decent. We're holding support very, very well. SPY is kind of like range bound, but the QQQ and many others are very bullish. And then Tesla, the big winner, is very strong, very, very bullish. There's no sign of weakness in this chart whatsoever at the time I'm recording this. And it looks like it wants to continue to push for 480. Now, if we lose 470, I could change my mind, right? We'd be looking for like 465, 460 levels like that. But we're not showing signs of that yet. We look very strong, and there's so much momentum, so much volume that's starting to come in. And Tesla looks like it wants to continue this squeeze. This is like a mix of many things, like a squeeze, lots of buyers, and etc. So we look very strong. And I think we're doing a great job. I thank you all so much for listening. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys very soon on my next video tomorrow morning. Until then, have a good night and peace out.